Hi, everybody, and welcome. It's 3 o'clock and I see some more people are trickling in, so we will go ahead and get started here. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for today's Edulastic Teacher Premium 101 training. My name is Jan, and I am excited to be your host today and excited that you are all here today as well. I am joined today by a few of my Edulastic colleagues. John Kyte is on the line, and he will be giving the heart of today's presentation. He just turned his camera on. Hi, John. Also on the line is Ileana Betancourt, and she will be helping to monitor the chat and answer questions. And myself and Ileana will be making sure that all of your questions get answered throughout today's training. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And let's go ahead and dive into things. Alrighty, so before I pass things off to my colleague, John Kyte, there are just a few quick housekeeping things for us to go over. The first is there is a chat feature in Zoom, and we really encourage you to use this throughout the session to connect with one another and to collaborate and share any ideas that you may have. So with that, let's all test out the chat. If everybody could chime in where they're tuning in from and what you're looking forward to getting out of today's training, that would be really helpful. So I will go ahead and type. I'm tuning in from the Bay Area today. I see John said he's from San Diego. Awesome. I see a New Jersey. Oh, another San Jose. We're very close, Laura. Clayton is from Michigan, Detroit, Connecticut. Kelly is from Washington State. Awesome. I hope you're staying warm up there. Amy's from Crestwood Schools in Northeast Ohio. Erica's from Ohio. Another Ohio, Paige. Lisa's from LA. Awesome. Hope it's a warm and sunny day down there. Samantha's from New Orleans. Great. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here today. So yeah, use the chat throughout this session, get to know one another, collaborate, share ideas, all of that great stuff. I also launched a poll a few minutes ago, and it would be really helpful if everybody took this poll. This asks how familiar you are with Edulastic, and also what type of Edulastic account do you have? With these results, we'll kind of be able to understand what kind of questions will be coming our way so that we can best cater this presentation towards you. My next point here is about official questions that you may have during today's presentation. If you have an official question, we ask that you please put it into the Q&A bubble. You should see that little Q&A bubble at the bottom of your Zoom screen. When you type a question in there, it allows myself or Ileana or John to type a response back to you, or we can answer it live during our designated Q&A time at the end of this session. So chat is for collaboration and conversation, whereas if you have an official question, please add that into the Q&A bubble. Here is today's plan. So this is our short introduction piece, and then in just a moment here, I'll pass things off to my colleague, John Kyte, and he will be diving into all of the great features that are available in an Edulastic Teacher Premium account. There's lots of advanced tools when it comes to different assigning policies when you're giving a test in Edulastic. There's a lot of great security features that we're going to be talking about today. John will be talking about some of the reports that are available in a Teacher Premium account, and so much more. There's a lot to cover, and an Edulastic Teacher Premium account is really, really powerful. So we're excited to be here. Lastly, I know I mentioned this just a moment ago, but we will have a designated Q&A time at the end of the session. So ask any questions you may have. We really want you to leave today with a comprehensive overview of Edulastic Premium and that all of your questions are answered. Alrighty, John, if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen. That was a little tongue twister. Go ahead and take it away.
Sounds great. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Edulastic Premium 101. I will now share my screen. Hi, everybody. So, Jan, can you confirm you see my screen?
Yep, looks great. Thanks, John.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And my name is John. I'm on the Edulastic Partnerships team, and on behalf of the team, just want to welcome you to this Edulastic Premium walkthrough. I noticed quite a few of you probably have recently received premium access and you're curious what's involved there. Congratulations on having premium access. I intend to share with you a really good, hopefully, overview of everything that is available within Edulastic Premium, or at least all the most popular features. So for those of you brand new to Edulastic, I think there was a couple of you. Edulastic is a tech-enhanced assessment solution. And it's known for three main things, I think. It's easy to use. It's tech enhanced, meaning it has a lot of tech enhanced question types and tools. and then it provides instant data for instruction. So, sometimes teachers will upgrade to Teacher Premium. Oftentimes schools or districts will purchase an enterprise subscription, which provides teachers with Teacher Premium access. There's a lot to Teacher Premium. So there's a lot to cover today. There's a lot of additional flexibility. There's additional security options, distance learning features, and in-depth reports. So let's begin the walkthrough, and I'll show some screenshots of all the different premium features. We'll start more with flexibility and security. You'll see distance learning features kind of throughout, or distance learning capabilities. So anyway, a really popular flexible feature within Edulastic is to enable text-to-speech. So here I am in the Manage Class area, and I'm going to the right here. I can select actions, enable text-to-speech, and I can select that for individual students, for groups of students, or the entire class if I want. When that's enabled, students will see this green play button, and they can actually play the questions that are read aloud to them by IBM Watson. And then in the live class board, there's a feature called the present mode. And so it's this present button here that you see with the arrow pointing to it. And you can see here, Katori, she got 9 out of 9 on her quiz. But if we click the present mode, we'll see that this isn't Katori anymore. So everyone's been shuffled and anonymized, and it could be that Katori is Violet Magnet one day, Blue Magnet the next day. So you can rest assured that student work will be anonymized, particularly if you want to project work in class. So there's also a calculator option available in Edulastic. The default setting is no calculator, but you can add a basic scientific or graphing calculator, and this is powered by Desmos. And then we have what's called a state-specific test player. So if you wanted to give students a similar look and feel to the state test, you can do that. You can select from a drop-down within the test options, and we're actually adding more state test options very soon. But anyway, in this case, I selected the SBAC, and now the colors are different as well as the format. So it's a little more similar to that test. And so you can give students as close of a look and feel to that state test as possible. There's also student post-test visibility options that are available. In the free version, students have access to all or nothing, meaning they see nothing after the test. Once it's submitted, they just see basically nothing, some gray bars indicating a score that they can't see, etc. Or they can see everything. You can show them the scores, student response, their responses, whether they got it correct, and any feedback that's been provided by the teacher at the assessment level or the question level, or in any detailed solutions that are available from the content author. But wouldn't it be nice if you could control this so it's not all or nothing? So you could release the scores to the students only, so students can see how well they did, but they can't share those questions with their friends who have yet to take the test. Or you could release scores and the student responses, but not the answers. So again, you have some more control over how students will see that post-test visibility. So we can add a co-author to a test in Premium. So in the free version, you have to publish something for another teacher to see it. So you'd have to publish it into a shared library, for example, a school shared library, district, or shared across the community as a published test. Then the co-author would find that in that shared library, make a new version, and then have to republish it again. And then you'd have to find it, do the same. You can see that this is a time-consuming process. So what we have in Premium is you have the capability to add a co-author while the assessment is still in draft mode. So I'm in the assessment review page of building an assessment, and I click the little share icon, and then I can send this test to my colleague, and I can determine just what sort of editing access they have. So this can be a huge time saver and great for collaboration when creating a test. And as that colleague, I can look in the assessment library, find, filter by where I'm a co-author, and see this test ready to go. And if I have full capabilities to edit, I'll be able to reorder questions, delete questions, edit questions, add questions, etc. So we also have Smart Redirect. In the free version, you have a redirect feature that you can redirect a test to a student that you want to basically unsubmit their work, so they're dropped back into the test where they last left it. They can see their work prior to before they submitted their work. They're unable to see what was right or wrong. They're unable to see teacher feedback. But so basically redirect in the free versions like, an unsubmit sort of, or for absent students, it gives them the opportunity to take the test for the first time. But for Smart Redirect, you can determine which questions students will see. So in this case, I selected just, skipped, and wrong. And then you can also see what, determine, kind of similar to the post-assessment visibility, you can allow students to see particular things. So for example, let's say I want to show them the feedback only, I could do that. So anyway, you have different levels of control as far as what the student experience will be once the test is redirected to them. And then you can create a grading rubric in Edulastic Premium. You can, and so most of Edulastic, for, I think a lot of you know this, is auto-graded, but there are some constructed response capabilities within specific question types. Of course, essays are probably the most popular for this. And so you can actually find a rubric that's been created and use that. You can clone an existing rubric and make your own version of it, or you can go ahead and author a rubric from scratch. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So we have the different criteria as well as the different ratings. So we can add ratings, we continue to build. This is a nice little button here called Clone Criteria. So I have kind of the same format for all of this, for example, excellent, good, fair, minimal, the same point values. And, let's say it's roughly the same description. Of course, I want to modify it for each different item here. But, I can clone the criteria, so that can be really helpful in saving time when creating the rubric. And so once the rubric is done, the student will take the essay, and then I can go ahead and score it simply just by clicking on, I click on the rubric, within the, under the live class board when I'm doing question level grading. So I go to the rubric, click that, and then I can click on, excellent or good or whatever the ratings are just by clicking in the box. There's also playlists in Edulastic Premium. So this allows you to organize sequences of tests. So maybe, you're always administering these tests in the same order. Why not organize it by a playlist? So when it's time to assign that next test, it's just ready for you to go ahead and administer. And then you can see how students are doing during that. So it's an organizational feature that can be helpful. We also allow for multiple attempts for practice in Premium. So in the free version, it's, you can do bell ringers, quizzes, tests, but it's mainly just an assessment platform. It's not, you don't really have a chance as a student to take, more than one attempt at a test. So in this case, it's allowing you to do that for practice. So you can see in this case, Kelly Bay, after the first attempt, she's allowed to click here to retake. And she went from the first attempt to a better score on that second attempt. So it could be though that, let's say, for example, for a math test, that you want to change the variables because you don't want students to just retake the test, but maybe they've written down the questions or the answers or whatever. And so they get 100% on the next try. Well, that's not helpful at all. So what you can do is set up dynamic parameters. So in this case, we have a scenario and we've created a formula here based on that scenario. And then we want comprehensive randomization as far as the variables there. So in this case, variable A, we want it to be a number between 3 and 6 with 2 decimal places. So when I set this up, it gives me an example value of 5.31. So that definitely meets the parameters that I've set up. And then I can create C is the answer. So this is the formula. So it's A, whatever that number is, plus 620. So in this case, using the example value of $5.31, it happens to be a grocery store type question. You can see that 531 plus 620 is the correct answer. And you can create a lot of different possible value combinations. The max, as you can see, is 200. So this can really provide some additional security and opportunities for practice as well. So we have student groups in Edulastic. Some come pre-packaged with Edulastic, where you have free and reduced lunch students, you have race, you have gender, you have IEP, and you have ELL. Well, in addition to that, you can actually create your own student subgroup. In this case, let's say, for example, this is a diagnostic test, and I'm filtering by students that the proficiency band was below basic. Well, I can add these students to a student group and assign additional practice to this specific student group. You can also add students to a group from the managed class area. So here we go to actions, add to group, and now I'm selecting particular students. So this happens to be some high achievers. So I'm calling this student group extra credit or something like that. I can see who's already in the group. I can select particular students to add, and then I can update the group membership accordingly. So so you have a lot more control over groups within Premium. You also have something that you don't have in the free version, which is the Gradebook. And so you can see, student by student, how they're doing so far in this easy Gradebook view. I mentioned a little bit on security. Here's some more security features that I think can be helpful. One is shuffling the question order and answer choices for the test. So if I shuffle the order of questions, I'm shuffling the answer choices, one student may get a question as their first question, and the answer is D. The student right next to them, let's say we're back in class again after COVID, the student with the Chromebook right next to them, well, that question for that student is question 7, and the correct answer is A. So as you can see, there's a lot of additional security that can happen with the result of this sequence. And you will see on the live class board the original template of the questions. So however you assigned it originally, you'll still see those. All those student results will filter into the right question. So it's easy for you to also monitor performance and standards mastery and progress and everything. So with browser locks, you also have this security capability. And I think browser locks are a little more powerful when we're back in the classroom. The reason why I say that is because it's only locking down a school issued device where your tech team has actually installed the browser lock. So if a student's working from home and they have their own personal device, it's not locking that down. But that being said, it can be great for locking down their primary device that they're using for the test. So we have kiosk mode for Chromebooks, and then we have Safe Exam Browser for Windows and Macs. And once you turn that on, you create a quit password. It's, you can give to students only if they need it in that rare circumstance or emergency where they need to quit the application. But otherwise then, once students are on, let's say their school issued Chromebook, and they're starting the test, and this has been activated, then the browser lock will be activated once they're in the test. So they'll be unable to get out of the Edulastic application. They won't be able to go and Google an answer. They won't be able to, even access a desktop application or anything like that. So it provides a lot more additional security. You can also require a password in Premium. So in this case, I'm setting dynamic password, which generates automatically about a 6, I think, digit code in Edulastic. In this case, I'm saying students have 15 minutes to enter the password to have access to the test. Of course, I can change that time. And so I have a unique password for every single class. So if I'm messaging that out to students, or if I'm telling them in a Zoom, or I'm telling them in person, whatever the case may be, during COVID, after COVID, or whatever, only students that I've given that password to will have access to the test. There's also a static password. Let's say the password is Edulastic 123 or something like that. That could be something that is something that could be for every single class. So for the dynamic one, it's a different password for every single class that takes the test. A static password is just one password that you can set up and give a name to. So you can also have timed assessments. This is also, I think, a flexibility and security type feature. This has been particularly popular with distance learning. In fact, it was our first feature that we created once COVID started in the spring. And for timed assessments, You can determine whether something's a time test or not. In this case, I've set it to 40 minutes. Of course, I can change that. I can have this timeout no matter what students do. Let's say they've started the test for 10 minutes and then they log out. Well, it's still only going to give them 30 more minutes, even if they're not online. But in this case, we can allow students to save and continue later as an option. So you can select that. And then here to the right, we see the time counting down for the student. And this is, on the student side. So I'll provide a walkthrough of a couple of those student-facing premium features, as well as some of the in-depth reports. I'll show specifically a deep dive into a single assessment called the Single Assessment Report. And then I think we'll have some time for questions and anything else we want to cover. So anyway, this is the report, so we'll show that a little bit later. But here's the student. We're going to go back into this Edulastic 2021 test. And so what I wanted to show you here was, in this case, this is a graphing question. We're graphing a line. I wanted to show you what that calculator looks like. So here we go. So I think in that slide, it was like y equals, something like this. So anyway, this is what it looks like. It's available up here with Scratchpad and magnifiers and accommodation that is also available. So then let me go to text-to-speech. Sometimes people want to hear what it sounds like. This is a question. It's a multiple select question having to do with a video. So, if we're watching the video and then we want to hear the question, we can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to press play here and hear the question being read aloud to me.
Question. At the end of the Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1 video, Claudius says madness in great ones must not unwatched go. Which two statements best reveal his meaning? Answer choices. Choice A. Claudius understands that Hamlet is angry. Choice B. Claudius feels that Hamlet might be dangerous.
So anyway, I just paused it, and that's a little bit on those student-facing features. On the teacher side, I wanted to share with you reports, because a lot of times, especially with individual premium purchases, read aloud text-to-speech may be the reason why teachers went forward with premium, or maybe it was rubric-based scoring, or maybe it was the shuffle of the questions and the answers. But a lot of people will suddenly be surprised at just how extensive the reports get once you get into teacher premium access. So here I'm in something called the Single Assessment Report, and I'm looking at a test. It's a math benchmark test. It happens to be from last school year. And here's the summary view. So let's say I just completed a test with 3 of my classes. Maybe it's my own class test that I did. Or maybe, as in this case, this is a district benchmark test where I can see across, this common assessment, see how my students did based on some district performance bands that they set up. And, so anyway, here I am looking at this. I have, just a couple minutes before class starts. I'm just curious how they all did. And so I can see, no students were absent. Here's the average percentage and point score, the distribution, as well as some quick statistics. So that can be great if I just have a minute or two. If I want to dig deeper into performance, especially peer performance comparisons, I go to this performance tab, and then I can look at the scores. In this case, this is a district benchmark. So thankfully, all 3 of my classes outperformed the district. If I wanted to look by proficiency band, that band that you kind of saw in the last view of the district setup, I can do that as well. I can also compare by different things. So class, I can look by, for example, free and reduced lunch status. See how did my free and reduced lunch students compare to their peers? How about IEP? So I can see all of this in real time once that test is closed. I can also look at question level analysis. So in this case, across all 3 of my classes, which of course the free version, you can see a live class board for each individual class, but there's no aggregate view at all as far as how all of your classes did. In this case, I can see that. So I had 3 classes, and I can see, questions 9 and questions 12 were difficult. We can also see here the time in minutes, the average time per question. So that can provide some good information too. So here we have questions 9 and 12. Whatever I click up here lights up down below. So this can be helpful. So for example, for question 9, I can see it's attached to this standard. And I can see, well, here is period 3. They did okay on it. So, but I really want to focus on period 6 and period 1 with this particular question. So I'm going to definitely pinpoint some review time for those 2 classes with this particular question. And the story might be different for question 12. So anyway, I have this data at my fingertips, and it can hopefully save time as I'm reviewing questions with those classes that need it the most. And then we have response frequency. So in Edulastic, I mentioned tech enhanced question types earlier. We have 51 question types in Edulastic. So it may be that students just need some practice on answering a specific question type. So this can kind of show you that, how are they doing on each question type? And then if we go into multiple choice, for example, and filter by performance, we can flag in red anything that doesn't meet a performance threshold that we're looking at. There's also this misunderstanding threshold. So we can, highlight in orange any wrong answer that got more than 31% of the responses in this case. So we can see C is the correct answer, A is the common mistake, and we can even click on question 9 and see what distractor A was. So at this point, I know, once the assessment's closed, I know, not only what to focus on, which is question 9, but how to focus on it, meaning we need to address distractor A, because that revealed a misunderstanding that we want to get to the bottom of. So anyway, that's all available within the response frequency view. There's also a standards mastery report. Some of you might recognize this from the free version. This is what it looks like, but it's an aggregate view across the entire academic year. So you'll see kind of the averages over time as they're weighted across the year. In this case, this is a standards-based report just for this math benchmark test number 1. And again, just like the question level analysis, I can click on whichever standards I'm more interested in seeing. They light up here below, and then we see the details here. So in this case, this standard we performed not so well at, and I want to see student by student how they did. So I can see that. And you may recognize this screenshot from a little earlier, but you can see, this distribution, 13 points. We can set proficiency bands below basic, for example. We can see that. And, this is where we can, create a student group, add students to a student group if we wanted to. So that is the single assessment report. And these are the views that are part of that in the single assessment report. So there's a limitation to the single assessment report, is it's just about one test. So that's solved with the next report, which is called the multiple assessment report. So let's say you wanted to compare performance from a diagnostic test at the beginning of the year to a similar test at the end of the year, sort of a post-test to see how students have improved. So this would be a great, that would be 2 great tests to compare in this multiple assessment report. Maybe there's a pre-test and post-test. Maybe, different standards are covered across the year, but you just want to see the general trajectory of how the students are performing. So you can see that here as well. So this can give you not only student data across your classes as a whole. You can compare by cohorts, including different student subgroups. And then finally, you can look student by student and see how they progressed across time. The standards mastery report, this view is in the free version. This is that standards gradebook view that I was talking about before, where it's kind of showing an aggregate, student by student, standard by standard. How are students mastering the standards across the year? There's also a domain level view that's not in the free version view that you get as well. And then finally, we have a student profile report. So this is shows student summary views showing domain level mastery, standards level mastery, progress across time. A lot of these reports you can also look at longitudinally. So for example, if I wanted to look at an October ELA essay that I assigned from one year to the next, I can just toggle from year to year. I can do that with a student profile report for an individual student. So let's say the student's been, their journey in Edulastic has happened for 3 or 4 years. I can toggle into prior years and see how they've done, see what's going on. For example, I can see trends, like in math, for example, the student seems to be struggling with word problems. And then I look in ELA, how the student's doing there, and their reading level is not that great. So anyway, it can give me a lot of insights. Can also be great for data-driven conversations with parents and for the student themselves. We can see any question that the student has answered in this report, and we can see the general trends. So it can be particularly helpful when, for example, there can be parents that think my student should be in a higher level class. I don't understand why they're not at this class. Well, you can kind of, explain, well, this is what they've mastered and what they haven't. And so the data is there. So potentially emotionally heightened conversations can become more data rich and data driven conversations. Of course, if you're talking to the student, you can get right to where the student isn't doing well, show the questions, show how the student answered. So again, a lot of these reports are, providing data at your fingertips. They're designed to be easy to interpret and intuitive, and then definitely actionable as far as assigning student groups, as far as giving students some guidance on where they want to go, as far as knowing what standards to cover again towards the end of the year because they seem to be slipping in one area, or as far as seeing how progress is going across time and seeing if we need to focus on any specific standard or any specific questions or any specific student subpopulation or whatever the case may be to try to narrow those achievement gaps. So anyway, that's a little bit on the insights area of Edulastic Premium. And, as you can see, Edulastic Premium has the opportunity for a lot more flexibility and distance learning incorporated within that, additional security options, and in-depth reports as well. So I'll pause here and just see if there's any questions.
Yeah, thank you, John. That was great. We do have some questions, and I think it would make the most sense for you to keep sharing your screen.
Okay.
The first came through towards the beginning. I'm wondering if you could assign a test in Edulastic and show where you could find all those different advanced test settings that you were showing earlier.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So anyway, here I'll go into a class and I'll create a new assessment for that class. And for those new to Edulastic, you can choose from the playlist or choose from the library. And if we wanted to create a new test, we could. Let's create something from scratch, and I'll just go fast. Here's the test name. This default image, I think we can, make something more personalized, more subject appropriate, have something kind of dynamic or kind of engaging there. We can select our grade, subject, etc. So maybe it's 7th grade and science, for example. And so we'll go and add some questions. So we'll go ahead and add questions. And of course, for those of you new to creating questions in Edulastic, I definitely encourage you to check out our certified item bank. These are items that are official within Edulastic. So, for example, these are items that come from our content team. These are Engage New York items. These are items from your end of year tests that have been publicly shared, and they're open educational resources, so we've been allowed to add them. So anyway, that's always a great filter there. But anyway, I'm going ahead and adding questions. We'll go ahead and review, and I like this, reordering, deleting, cloning, making my own versions of questions, creating my own questions. You have all of that. And so then we'll go into the settings. And so the settings we can have, and again, I'm in a teacher premium account, so I can either have it be a class assessment or a practice test. So in the spring, it was just a class assessment as an option. So then we can allow different attempts if we want to. We can provide some instructions for the students if we want to write those. We can determine when the test is completed. Does it happen automatically? Does it happen manually? If it's, in-class assessment, I mean, you know, or something that's more formal, I would say manually. Automatically might be an assignment that they're doing at home or whatever, you know, at night. And then release scores, you can determine what that looks like. So we don't want to release scores, release the scores only, et cetera. We kind of talked about this a little earlier. And then Safe Exam Browser, I can determine whether the browser lock is enabled. I can add my quit password. Here's the ability to shuffle the questions and the answer choices. Here's the show calculator options. Maybe I'm an elementary school teacher and I want just the basic option there. We can have answer on paper options where, you know, you're allowing students to answer it on paper. Then as a teacher, I'm manually entering that information into Edulastic. Then we have require a password. So we can have a dynamic password, for example, and you know, have it so students need to enter that password in 10 minutes. You can see a nice explanation of what the passwords are all about. There's also a static password. So let's say my password is Edulastic. So that would be something, must not contain space. So Edulastic's always a little smarter than me. So it's letting me do the right thing there. And then evaluation methods. So for partial credit, are we doing all or nothing? Partial credit where you don't penalize for incorrect selection. And then item level and evaluation as well. We also have a time test. So we can turn on a time test and maybe we want it to be, you know, 18 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever we want. We can type that in. And then we can allow students to save and continue or not. And then we have the performance bands and standards-based grading. So all this is available within the settings. So then when we go ahead and assign, let's go ahead and assign this to a class. So then we have, you know, we'll just go for this demo class here. We can select the whole class or individual students. And then we have the open date. So maybe we're opening this on the 19th. We'll close it on the 22nd. And then our policy. So we want to open it manually in class. If it's a formal test, I would say yes, or automatically on the start date. That may be something that, you know, maybe it's a practice where they have a lot of time to work on it. It could be homework or something that could be good for that. And then test type, we can override what we had before, and then we can override those settings that we had before. So when I published it, I had the settings, but just before you assign it to a class, you can override that if you decide to change your mind. Then there's additional advanced options. So one is enabling or disabling Scratchpad, and the other is a magnifier enabler. And then finally, this is where the student test options are if we wanted to make it look like a specific state test. And I know that more tests are coming, specifically the STAR test in Texas. We're going to be seeing that there soon. So anyway, then we go ahead and assign. Then we go to live class board and see how the students are doing.
Thank you, John. That was awesome. And Hanan asked earlier about the different calculator options, and I think that you just covered this. So Hanan, will you let us know if we answered that question? He specifically wanted to know if we only had graphing calculators or if we had other calculator options as well. And we do have, you know, just your standard, a little bit more advanced or graphing calculator too.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's 3 options and the default is no calculator. But yeah, that's correct.
Great.
What other questions are out there?
Yeah, Jean asked a little bit about the co-author feature. She says, is it possible for a teacher to write a test and then a co-teacher can take that test and make sure the answers are correct, and then teachers can work together to make the test better? So I'm wondering if you could talk about co-authoring in Edulastic.
Yeah, definitely. And so the answer to that is yes. All those capabilities are there. If I'm going to my test library, let me see if I have something in draft mode that I can share. And so let's look at tests that are authored by me. So I think all of these are, I don't have any. Yeah, here's a draft. So anyway, we'll go into this draft and go to click into it and clone it. So I'm kind of going back into a draft that I was kind of halfway done with. So anyway, we'll go ahead and add some additional items. And then here we'll go to the review page. And of course we can change the image, change the name of the test, things like that. But I think everywhere actually, no matter what page you're on, there's this share option, and that's where it exists. So the share option allows you to put in a teacher's email and then allow them to just view the test and duplicate it, make their own version. Or if you want them to be a co-author, then you're giving them editing and adding and removing capabilities. So that's where you'd add that. This is where you put in the teacher email address. And then finally, see if I can type correctly. And then finally, you can determine whether to send them an email notification too. And that's where you share it. So then in their test library, they would go to the test library and filter by, I'm going to clear all, and I'm going to filter by I'm a co-author. So I got this email. They said they wanted to share this with me. And so here it is. So I'm a co-author, and I can see this has been shared with me from Mr. Chen and Ms. Myers, these different tests. So this is where then I could preview the test, see what the questions look like, or go to more, and then I can go ahead and start editing. So this is when I have access to the review page. So I can start deleting, as you can see. I can start reordering. I can start, previewing questions and things of that nature.
Thank you, John. That's super helpful. Jean, hopefully that helps to answer your question.
Yeah, and for those of you new to Edulastic, you can author questions too, even in the free version, using any of the 51 question types. So they come in 10 categories. So there's multiple choice questions, fill in the blank questions, classification questions, writing questions, passage-based questions, highlighting questions, math questions, graphing questions, charts, multi-part like part A and part B. And then in addition to the 51, we have instructional pages. So you can add a page that just has a video or just has a text. So anyway, the name of the game with Edulastic is flexibility, and you have the capability to create any of these question types. And you'll see videos and tools guiding you on how to author each question type as well. So just thought I'd mention that too.
Definitely. Yeah, I love all those different question types. Really, really flexible. Casey has a question, and I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you do, John. He says, is it possible to assign a calculator to only specific questions in the assignment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have the answer that you want. Unfortunately, at this time, it's a test level setting. So it's something that would be test wide and available across the test. Of course, the manual workaround for that, if you wanted half the questions to have the calculator and half not, would unfortunately be to administer two sort of twin tests at the same time, so to speak, where students could access the first test with the calculator, the second test without. I know that that's not the optimal solution, but that's the best option at this time.
Yeah, and Casey, I will go ahead and pass that request onto our product development team. They love hearing feedback requests like that, so I will send that their way. Our next question is from Mariah, and she says, how can students see feedback from essays? Or how can students see feedback in general, I guess?
Oh yeah, so here, let me show you. Let me jump into an account, and let me see which student account I have open here. So by the way, this is the student account. So here's Amaya Costa, and her picture is drawn by one of my daughters. And so anyway, she can change her password and whatever. But you can see that here I'm in the assignments area. I can see anything that's been graded and submitted. And then finally, I can see any of the classes that have been archived. I can move from class to class, et cetera. So in this case, let me go ahead and resume and finish this Edulastic 2021 test. So I'm going to go ahead and submit my work. And wow, this is pretty good. And so I don't know what the teacher's going to have to say, but here we go into the teacher's live classboard. I can see that this just happened, and I can click down into Amaya Costa's card here, and we can give overall feedback on the test for Amaya. And so overall feedback, test level, I'll call it. And then finally, or secondly, and finally, here's question 1. I'll provide question level feedback for the student on 112, etc. And by the way, when you're providing feedback, you can also override scores. Some of you may not actually know that. For example, if you have Scratchpad and you're having students show their work and they're showing like half the steps, but they still got it right, you can actually reduce the score. Or, you know, if they got it wrong, but they still got half the steps, maybe you want to give them, instead of 0, 0.5 or whatever. So, and it's flexible. We can go to 0.9 or whatever the case may be. So we updated the score, we added question level feedback, and then we added test level feedback. So here's the student. So if the student leaves and comes back, or in this case, I'm just going to refresh my screen. You see question 1 now has been changed. Here's overall feedback at the test level for the student. And then if we click on question 1, we'll be able to see that question level feedback for the student as well. So that's where the feedback takes place between the teacher and the student. Also, some of our certified questions, like Engage New York questions specifically, have a lot of great detailed stepped out solutions, which are good. So that's always a plus when you can find content that has that. And that would tend to be more on the certified side than the public created questions.
Great. Thank you, John. That was really helpful. And Mariah, hopefully that answered your question. Let us know. Our next question is from Lori. Lori says, when you are creating a test and want to use problems from several different tests that have already been created, what is the easiest way to add them all to one test?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was one of my first questions ever, you know, when I joined Edulastic, like, I don't know, 5 years ago or whatever. And I wish back in the day, you know, iTunes was a lot more popular as far as creating your own music playlists, and you could like combine playlists, which was really cool. In this case, though, I don't have a good answer, kind of similar to the calculator question. You can't just select 2 playlists and merge them and then, you know, start editing from there. That would be great if we could do that. Unfortunately, you would be looking at going to the item bank, filtering by standard, and maybe what you want to do, let's say those 2 tests are, you know, created by the same author. Well, maybe you want to filter the item bank by the author and by the particular standards that both of those tests have in them. So that may be a step in the right direction. I don't think it's exactly providing what you might be wanting, or at least what I thought about so many years ago. But you know, this is where you can search, and this is where you can certainly filter by standards and things like that. So, and if it's a certified author, of course, you can then filter by certified. Or if it's an author that's in your school or district, you can just filter by that. So again, you're kind of filtering your way towards those 2 tests or 3 tests or whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, you're unable to merge two assessments from the library and then edit from there.
Yeah, one other potential suggestion there is you could clone whichever test has the most items that you want to use, and then start from that and then add on to it when you find those other questions.
Yeah, and in fact, if one of the tests has like, you know, 10 questions in it or whatever, you may just want to take down these question IDs. I think that through the filter will help you find the question. So that may be another way to approach it. I haven't done that recently, but that may work as well.
Definitely. And then our next question is from Erica. She says, if we choose not to release scores or questions when she's setting up the test, do we need to change a setting for students to eventually see the feedback once Erica's all the way done grading? Or does it happen automatically?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it used to just be, I don't know if you remember sort of the old design, but there used to be a toggle they would go back and forth, and it was kind of convenient. Here, let's see what I can do. So we still have Amaya's work in Safari. So I'm going to see if I can change it. I think I can, but we're going to put it to the test. So here I am. So I'm in settings, and I'm going to change it to do not release scores or responses. So the question is, can I do this? Can I update this, and will it update for the student? We'll find out. So here's from the student standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and then I'll go into my completed tests there. And let's see if I can review it. I shouldn't be able to. This is a good sign. I don't see the score percentage there. And good. I'm glad it worked out. So that's how you would do it. That's kind of the workaround for what used to be the toggle, for those of you who remember the toggle back in the spring or whenever that was.
Thanks, John.
Great.
Next question is about the redirect button. Can you review what that does?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, for those of you still using the free version, redirect basically has one option, which means you unsubmit the work for specific students, or you can redirect it to an absent student so they have the chance to take the test. So it's done after the test is closed or after the particular students are done, and it redirects the test to them. Again, the free version, they get dropped back into the test. They can see where their submissions, they can see how they answered, but they aren't able to see anymore whether it's correct or incorrect or any teacher feedback or anything else. So of course we got the product requests and they come in and we're responsive as usual. So in this case, we wanted to meet some of those requirements that people were telling us about. So for questions delivery, of course, people, didn't necessarily always want the entire test redirected, but why not just redirect the questions that the student skipped or got wrong? And then again, we can determine what sort of level of feedback students get. So do they see, just the teacher feedback and the questions are blank as if they never took it? Do they see their score and the teacher feedback? But the question now needs to be filled in. So the score will probably be 100% incorrect or partially correct or whatever. So they have to retake it, but they can see what their last score was and what the teacher feedback was. They can see the student response. So I can see this is how I answered it last time, and this is the teacher feedback. So let me try something a little different. So this is different from the free version in that you can see the teacher feedback. And this can be particularly helpful for like ELA or, social studies or wherever there's an essay and you see the student, you've done a draft and teachers have provided some feedback like, this is good, this is what I want you to work on in draft number 2 in the final version. So you can see that feedback, you can see your response, and then you can edit upon the essay work you've already done. So then you have student score, response, and teacher feedback. So you have kind of everything. You're able to access everything at that point. So then you can redirect to students, and then students would have access to those tests. So that's how redirect works. And it's in the live class board. It's right here.
Thanks, John. Mariah has another question about text-to-speech. And Mariah, I might have you elaborate on this a little bit. She says, will Edulastic have text-to-speech available for part 2 of exams, such as short answer and essay prompts? And as far as I know, John, I'm pretty sure that text-to-speech works on all types of questions in Edulastic. Is that correct?
I think so. It does have some limitations though. So sometimes if there's writing within a box, text-to-speech may not read it. Also, sometimes answer choices, text-to-speech may not see and read it. So what you may want to do before, and this is a great thing about previewing questions and maybe just looking at the test before you administer it, is just making sure that everything that's supposed to be read aloud does, because it's very easy to duplicate a question and then add the answer choices outside of whatever box they're in. So there are some limitations with text-to-speech that way, but if you preview the question and kind of have an idea of what the limitations are, you can adapt the question so that it is meeting your requirements and goals.
Great, thank you, John. Let's see. Laura is wondering about Snap Quiz and uploading a PDF test. She says specifically, how can alternate correct answers be entered? Do you know how to do that, John?
Yeah, I don't know if they can. I'm going to try it. Let's go there. And the good thing about Snap Quiz, for those of you using the free version, is it's in the free version as well. So this is not premium specific, but we can go to choose from the library, and wait, there should be a PDF test option. Hold on. What am I doing wrong? Yeah. Do you guys know what I'm doing wrong?
Go back to the test library.
Okay, test library.
And then hit new test.
New test. There we go. Good. Thank you. Saved me.
Yeah, no problem. Teamwork.
So again, for those of you who didn't see that, test library, new test, then create from PDF. So we upload a PDF. So let's go ahead and give this a try. So my PDF that I always use is a 3rd grade math test. So we'll go ahead and add it. And so for those of you new to this feature, I'm just going to write PDF test. For those of you new to this feature, Edulastic doesn't really know what it's looking at. As far as it's concerned, it's an image. It doesn't see where the questions are. It doesn't really see anything. This is where you can add, like, for example, question 1's a multiple choice question. And you can say, no, Edulastic, there's actually A through G here. So you can kind of let Edulastic know what it's looking at. Then we can add some standards, and you can wait till later or whatever. But so there we have it. In fact, let me actually have an answer choice. So C is the correct answer. So I'm not seeing too much as far as advanced options here. Add bulk, multiple choice. Yeah, I'm not seeing that opportunity to have like more than one answer. Well, first of all, let me go to a question that's gonna have more than one answer. Text entry would be one of them. So correct answer is Edulastic. Exact match, any text containing Edulastic, match the case. DOK and difficulty level. So this is all it gives you. So I think it would be great if there were, if you could get 10 different answers, because of course I can see definite, questions where there would be a few different acceptable answers. But yeah, in general, the PDF test, people love it because, especially when they're new to Edulastic and they already have all their tests in Word, they can just convert those Word docs into a PDF, throw a quick answer key on top, attach some standards, and you're ready. And then you can access all the reporting. So that can be really helpful. But the limitation on PDF tests are the item types. So we have 6 question types to choose from rather than 51. And some of the limitations like the one you just mentioned, unfortunately. So again, that's probably a really good product request. So we'll let product know about that.
Definitely. And John, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and take back over screen sharing. I know we're almost at the end of our hour here. I have one other final really good question just came in from Lori, actually. Can you demo how to do this, John? How do you save items to your favorites?
Oh, yeah.
I love this trick. I think it's really fun.
Okay. Let's see if I know it.
Head to the item bank.
Yeah, so we're searching by the item bank. And do we just...
Yep, go ahead and heart it, and then it shows up in your My Favorites folder over on the left.
Yeah. There we go.
There it is. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take back over screen share.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, excellent.
Thanks, John. Lori,
Yeah.
hopefully that answered your question. And are you able to see my screen, John?
I am, yes.
Okay, great. So I have just a few final things to point out here. I know we're almost at the end of our hour. I wanted to give everybody some follow-up resources and some other places that you can go to get support and help with Edulastic. So this is a screenshot from our resource page, also known as our teacher training hub. You can come here to view recorded trainings or view a different training. You can also take a self-paced training course on Edulastic. Or down at the bottom here, I wanted to point out our quick start guide and our YouTube channel. That's what I'll show you next. Over on our Edulastic YouTube channel, we have tons of videos to walk you through lots of the stuff that we talked through today. These videos are anywhere from 30 seconds to maybe 3 minutes in length. And they're really great. They kind of show you everything from redirect to how to sync with Google Classroom to how to create an Edulastic account or create a class. There's lots of good stuff on here. So if you ever have an additional question about Edulastic, I encourage you to come check out this YouTube channel. We also have this playlist that's called Edulastic 2020 tutorial videos. And this is where you can find even more videos like I was just speaking about. I will go ahead and share this blog post in the chat, but this is a nice overview of all the features that we went through today. So this kind of walks you through all the benefits of upgrading to Teacher Premium. So I'll share that in the chat in just a moment here. All righty, let me go ahead and present. We have a couple more trainings on the calendar in February. These talk about how to author and write items in Edulastic. So I encourage you to mark your calendars and join us for these exciting trainings in February. Also, at the end of this month in January, we have several upcoming webinars. Science, Social Studies, RTI, which is Response to Intervention, ELA, Math, and Math Leaders. So really exciting series coming up there, and we'll have lots of great panelists, educators from across the country on to speak on all of these subjects. And then lastly, I just wanted to say thank you everybody for joining us today. I know John and I are really appreciative. We know it's a really busy time of year and we appreciate you all taking the time out of your day.